The November air in rural Pennsylvania cuts through my old denim jacket like a blade, carrying the scent of dying leaves and wood smoke from distant chimneys. I'm standing outside the Amtrak station in Lancaster, watching my breath form small clouds while I wait for Uncle Ray's beat-up Honda to appear around the corner. My duffel bag sits heavy on my shoulder, stuffed with laundry I couldn't afford to wash at community college and textbooks I'll probably never open again. When Ray finally pulls up, his passenger window squeaks down with that familiar grinding sound I've known since childhood. "Ben, look at you, kid. College is making you soft." He grins, though his eyes carry something heavier than his usual sarcasm. "Just tired," I reply, tossing my bag in the back seat. The Honda smells like coffee and cigarettes, a combination that somehow feels more honest than the expensive perfumes that'll be waiting for me at home. "How's your mom been?" Ray asks as we pull onto the winding country road that leads to the family estate. His tone shifts, becoming careful in a way that makes my stomach tighten. Haven't talked to her much. She's been busy with Gregory and the wedding planning. I watch the familiar landscape roll by, the same red barns, the same stone walls that have marked this route my entire life. Why? Ray's knuckles whiten slightly on the steering wheel. Just asking. You know how she gets around the holidays. Everything has to be perfect. When we turn through the iron gates of the Emerson property, I feel that familiar mix of pride and unease. The house rises before us like something from an old movie. 3 stories of weathered stone and timber, with ivy climbing the walls and tall windows that once welcomed everyone who needed shelter. Grandpa Walter built this place in the 60s, with money from his auto repair shops, designing every room to hold as many people as possible because, as he always said, a house ain't worth much if it's empty. But now, as Ray parks behind a line of gleaming cars that definitely don't belong to our family, the house feels more like a museum than a home. The porch is decorated with expensive fall arrangements that look like they came from a magazine, and through the windows I can see people in clothes that cost more than my semester tuition. "Looks like the party already started," I mutter. "Your mom's got her real estate friends over for some kind of pre-Thanksgiving thing," Ray explains, cutting the engine. "Gregory's idea, apparently. Something about expanding their network." I grab my bag and head toward the front door, but Ray catches my arm. "Ben, listen, before you go in there, your grandpa's been staying in the guest house most of the week. Your mom thought it would be more comfortable for him." The way he says "more comfortable" makes it clear he doesn't believe it any more than I do. Grandpa Walter has lived in this house for 60 years. The idea of him being relegated to the little cottage out back sits wrong in my chest like a stone. Is he okay? He's Walter. You know how he is. Doesn't complain, just adapts. Ray's voice carries a note of frustration. "But Ben, things have changed around here. Just be prepared for that." As I push through the front door, I'm immediately hit with the sound of laughter that doesn't quite reach anyone's eyes, and conversations about property values and market trends. My mother appears from the living room, elegant in a way that seems calculated, her blonde hair pulled back in a style that probably took an hour to achieve. "Benjamin, you're here!" She kisses my cheek, but her attention is already drifting back to her guests. "We're just finishing up a little gathering. Why don't you take your things upstairs? Dinner will be ready soon." I want to ask about Grandpa Walter, but the words stick in my throat as I watch her glide back toward a circle of people who look like they stepped out of a real estate brochure. This house, which once echoed with the sound of Walter's tools in the basement workshop and my late grandmother Evelyn's laughter in the kitchen, now feels hollow despite being full of people. As I climb the stairs with my duffel bag, I catch a glimpse through the back window of the small guest house where a single light glows warm against the gathering darkness. After dropping my bag in my old room, I slip out the back door and follow the stone path to the guest house. The small cottage sits about 50 yards from the main house, surrounded by the oak trees Grandpa Walter planted when I was just a kid. Through the window, I can see him hunched over his workbench, the familiar sight of his weathered hands carefully adjusting the gears of an old mantel clock. "Grandpa?" I knock softly and push open the door. He looks up, and his lined face breaks into the first genuine smile I've seen since arriving home. "Ben, come in. Come in. Just fixing this old-timer for Mrs. Henderson down the road." He sets down his small screwdriver and wipes his hands on a rag. "How's college treating you?"
"It's fine," I say, though my attention drifts around the small space. All of his belongings are here now. The faded leather chair where he used to read me stories, the wooden chest that belonged to Grandma Evelyn, even his coffee mug collection that used to line the kitchen windowsill in the main house. "Grandpa, why are you staying out here?" His smile falters slightly. "Your mother thought it might be better, less crowded in the big house with all her company coming and going." He turns back to the clock, but I can see the tension in his shoulders. "Besides, I like the quiet out here. Gives me space to work." But I know Walter Emerson, and I know when he's making excuses. The man who built that house with his own hands, who raised 2 children in those rooms, doesn't just voluntarily exile himself to a cottage. Something else is going on, and the knot in my stomach tells me it has everything to do with Mom's new life and the strangers currently drinking wine in our living room. "You shouldn't have to hide out here," I say quietly. Grandpa Walter's hands pause on the clock mechanism. For a moment, the only sound is the ticking of various timepieces scattered around his workbench. Then he looks at me with those sharp blue eyes that have seen decades of family drama. "Sometimes, Ben," he says carefully, "silence is louder than noise." The next morning, I can't shake the image of Grandpa Walter alone in that cottage, surrounded by the remnants of his life like a refugee in his own backyard. After breakfast, while Mom fusses over flower arrangements with Gregory's interior designer, I decide to retrieve some old photo albums from the attic. Maybe seeing pictures of better times will help me understand how we got to this point. The attic stairs creak under my weight as I climb into the dusty space above the 3rd floor. Cardboard boxes labeled in Grandma Evelyn's careful handwriting line the walls. Christmas decorations 1987. Ben's baby clothes. Walter's army photos. In the far corner, I spot a heavy wooden chest I've never seen before, secured with an old brass lock. "Find what you're looking for?" Uncle Ray's voice startles me as his head appears through the attic opening. "Just looking for some photo albums. What's this chest?" I run my hand over the dark wood, feeling the grain worn smooth by decades. Ray's expression grows curious. "Never seen it before. Your grandma was always tucking things away up here." He climbs fully into the attic and examines the lock. "Looks like it hasn't been opened in years." "Should we?" "Your house," he shrugs, then pauses. "Well, your family's house." We find an old screwdriver and manage to work the lock loose. The chest opens with a protest of rusty hinges, releasing the scent of old paper and lavender sachets. Inside, beneath layers of tissue paper, are stacks of documents, photographs, and letters tied with faded ribbon. Ray lifts out a manila folder marked "Property Records" in Grandma Evelyn's handwriting. His hand still as he opens it, and I watch his face change from curiosity to something like shock. "Ben," he says quietly, "you need to see this." He hands me a legal document, yellowed with age, but still clearly legible. It's the deed to the house, dated 1962, with Walter's signature bold and confident at the bottom. But it's not the age of the document that makes my heart race. It's the fact that Walter's name is still on it, not Mom's. "Holy shit," I whisper. "Language," Ray says automatically, but his voice is distant. He's reading a letter that was folded beneath the deed. "This is from your grandmother. Listen to this. Walter, my darling, I know you want to sign the house over to Claire when we're gone, but I'm asking you to wait. This house needs to stay in hands that understand what it means to shelter people, not just impress them. Promise me, you'll know when the time is right." The letter is dated just 3 months before Grandma Evelyn died. "Ray," I say, my voice barely above a whisper, "does this mean—" "It means," he says, carefully folding the letter, "that your grandfather still owns this house. Every brick, every board, every blade of grass." We sit in the dusty attic silence, surrounded by boxes of family memories, holding proof that everything I thought I knew about our family's hierarchy is wrong. The man living in exile in the guest house isn't a tolerated burden. He's the owner of the estate that Mom parades around like her personal kingdom. "We have to tell him we found this," I say. Ray nods slowly. "Yeah, we do. But Ben, I think part of him wanted us to find this. Your grandpa doesn't leave things to chance." That evening, Mom gathers everyone in the dining room for what she calls a family meeting, though the mahogany table is surrounded by more strangers than relatives. Gregory sits at her right hand like some kind of corporate prince, his silver hair perfectly styled and his smile sharp enough to cut glass. The chandelier casts shadows across faces I don't recognize, his business associates, apparently, all here to witness Mom's performance as the sophisticated hostess of a grand estate.
"I wanted to discuss our Thanksgiving celebration," Mom begins, her voice carrying that artificial warmth she uses when she's about to deliver bad news wrapped in silk. "We're expecting nearly 30 guests this year, including some very important people from Gregory's firm. It's going to be quite the elegant affair." Uncle Ray shifts uncomfortably in his chair. "Sounds fancy. I assume Walter will be joining us?" The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. Mom's smile becomes strained, and Gregory leans forward slightly as if he's been waiting for this moment. "Actually," Mom says, her voice taking on that patronizing tone I remember from childhood lectures, "I've decided it would be best if Dad stays in the guest house for Thanksgiving dinner. He's more comfortable there, and honestly, he doesn't really fit with the atmosphere we're trying to create." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean he doesn't fit?" "Benjamin, please, don't make this more difficult than it needs to be." She waves her hand dismissively. "Your grandfather is set in his ways. He smells like motor oil and tells the same old stories about his little garage business. Our guests are sophisticated people who wouldn't appreciate his rustic charm." "His garage business?" I can feel my voice rising, but I can't stop it. "You mean the chain of auto shops that paid for this house, that put you through college?" Gregory clears his throat. "Ben, I think what your mother is trying to say is that we want to present the family in the best possible light. Your grandfather is a lovely man, but he's from a different generation, different values." "Different values," I repeat slowly, the phrase tasting bitter in my mouth. "You mean like honesty, like loyalty, like actually caring about family instead of treating them like props? That's enough." Mom's mask slips completely, revealing the cold anger beneath. "I will not have you embarrass me in front of our guests. Your grandfather will eat in the guest house, and that's final. He's become too much of a burden anyway, with his constant tinkering and that smelly old dog of his." The mention of Mabel, Grandma Evelyn's ancient golden retriever who follows Walter everywhere, pushes me over the edge. I stand up so quickly my chair scrapes against the floor. "A burden? He's not a burden. He's the reason any of us are sitting at this table." My voice echoes off the walls, and I can see some of Gregory's associates exchanging uncomfortable glances. "Good," I say, my heart pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears. "Maybe it's time someone made a scene in this house." Uncle Ray stands up slowly, his chair creaking. "Claire, I think you should reconsider this." But Mom's eyes are fixed on me with a fury I haven't seen since I was 12 and broke her favorite vase. "If you can't respect my decisions in my home, Benjamin, perhaps you should consider spending Thanksgiving elsewhere as well." The silence that follows is deafening. Gregory's business associates study their wine glasses like they contain the secrets of the universe, and I can feel Ray's supportive presence beside me like an anchor in a storm. "Fine," I say quietly. "But this isn't your home, Mom. It never was." After storming out of the dining room, I find myself back in the guest house, pacing like a caged animal, while Grandpa Walter sits calmly at his workbench, cleaning the gears of another old clock. Mabel lifts her graying head from her bed in the corner, sensing my agitation. "She threw you out of your own house," I say, my voice still shaking with anger. "Your own daughter." Walter doesn't look up from his work, but his hands pause slightly. "She's scared, Ben. Always has been." "Scared of what? You? The man who raised her?" He sets down his tools and turns to face me, his weathered face heavy with years of accumulated sadness. "She's scared of not being enough, of being ordinary." He gestures toward the window that faces the main house, where warm light spills from the dining room windows. "My grandmother used to worry about that, especially after Claire hit her teenage years." "What do you mean?" Walter walks over to a small bookshelf and pulls out a photo album I recognize, one filled with pictures from my childhood. He flips to a section near the middle and shows me a photograph of Mom when she was maybe 16, standing stiffly beside a brand-new Cadillac in our driveway. "I bought that car when the business really started taking off," Walter explains. "Thought it would make your mom proud. Show her that her old man had made something of himself. But look at her face."
In the photo, teenage Claire looks mortified rather than proud. Her arms are crossed, and she's looking anywhere except at the camera. "She was embarrassed," Walter continues, "said it was new money trash, and that her friends at private school would laugh at us. That's when I realized I'd failed her somehow. I'd given her everything I could, but it was never the right thing." I study the photograph, seeing my mother in a new light, not as the confident woman orchestrating dinner parties, but as a girl who felt ashamed of where she came from. "After your grandmother died," Walter says quietly, "Claire blamed me for that too. Said if I'd taken Evelyn to better doctors in the city instead of trusting old Doc Morrison, she might still be alive." His voice breaks slightly. "Maybe she was right." "Grandpa, that's not—" "The cancer was too far along, Ben. No doctor could have saved her. But Claire needed someone to blame, and I was an easy target." He closes the photo album gently. "She's spent her whole adult life trying to prove she's better than where she came from, and where she came from is me." I sink into the old leather chair that used to sit in the main house's study. "So you just let her push you around? Let her treat you like garbage?" Walter's eyes meet mine, and I see something there that looks like wisdom mixed with profound sadness. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them make their own mistakes, even when those mistakes hurt you. "But what about Thanksgiving? What about treating you like family?" "Family isn't about where you sit for dinner, Ben. It's about who shows up when it matters." He reaches over and squeezes my shoulder. "You showed up. That's enough for this old man." But as I sit there in the lamplight, surrounded by the remnants of a life that built everything my mother now claims as her own, I know it's not enough for me. The next morning, I'm helping Uncle Ray clear some fallen branches from the driveway when Gregory approaches, his Italian leather shoes crunching on the gravel. He's traded his usual expensive suit for what I assume is his version of casual wear, pressed khakis and a polo shirt that probably costs more than my monthly food budget at college. "Ben, could I have a word?" His smile is the kind practiced in boardrooms, all teeth and no warmth. "Privately." Ray gives me a questioning look, but I nod toward the house. "I'll catch up with you inside." Gregory waits until Ray is out of earshot before launching into what sounds like a rehearsed speech. "I know yesterday was difficult. Family dynamics can be complicated, especially around the holidays." "Is that what we're calling it?" I lean against the rake, studying his face. Your mother loves your grandfather, Ben, but sometimes love means making hard choices about what's best for everyone involved. I've been in business a long time, and I've learned that emotional decisions rarely serve anyone's interests. What's your point, Gregory? He glances back at the house, then pulls a folded envelope from his back pocket. Your mother mentioned you're struggling with college expenses. Community college tuition, living costs, books, it all adds up. I'm managing fine. I'm sure you are. You seem like a resourceful young man. He holds out the envelope. But imagine not having to worry about any of that. Imagine having enough to transfer to a 4-year university, maybe even graduate school, if that interests you. Against my better judgment, I take the envelope. Inside is a check made out to me for $25,000, signed in Gregory's precise handwriting. What's this for? I ask, though I'm pretty sure I already know. Consider it an investment in your future, a gift from someone who recognizes your potential. His smile never wavers. All I ask in return is that you trust your mother and me to handle family matters. We have experience dealing with difficult situations. Your grandfather will be comfortable in the guest house, and you can focus on building your own life without getting caught up in family drama. I stare at the check, my hands trembling slightly. $25,000 would change everything for me. I can transfer to Penn State, get my own apartment, maybe even buy a decent car. But the weight of the deed discovery presses against my chest like a stone. This is a bribe, I say quietly. Gregory's expression doesn't change. I prefer to think of it as an opportunity. You're young, Ben. You have your whole life ahead of you. Don't let misplaced loyalty to the past compromise your future. Misplaced loyalty? The words taste bitter. He's my grandfather.
He's an old man who's lived his life. This house, this property, it has potential that he can't see. Your mother and I want to develop it into something that benefits the whole community. A resort, maybe? Or luxury condominiums. Think about the jobs that would create, the economic impact. I look back at the house, imagining bulldozers tearing down the walls where Walter's hands hung every piece of trim, or Grandma Evelyn planted a rose garden, where 3 generations of Emersons celebrated birthdays and holidays and quiet Sunday mornings. You want to tear it down, I realize. I want to build something better, something that honors progress instead of clinging to the past. Gregory extends his hand. What do you say, Ben? Are you ready to invest in your future? I fold the check carefully and hand it back to him. Keep your money, Gregory. Some things aren't for sale. His practiced smile finally falters. You're making a mistake. Maybe, I say, walking toward the house. But at least it's my mistake to make. As the sun sets on Thanksgiving Eve, I find myself back in the guest house with Uncle Ray and Grandpa Walter, sharing a quiet dinner of leftover pot roast and mashed potatoes. The main house glows with expensive lighting and the sound of caterers preparing for tomorrow's elaborate feast. But here, in this small cottage, surrounded by the gentle tick of Walter's clocks and Mabel's contented snoring, everything feels real. Remember when your grandmother used to make that green bean casserole? Walter asks, pointing his fork at the simple vegetables on his plate. Lord, that woman could make anything taste like heaven. She put those crispy onions on top, Ray adds, his voice warm with memory. Ben, you were maybe 5 years old, and you'd pick off every single onion and eat them first. Still would, I admit. And for a moment, we're just 3 generations of men, sharing stories instead of carrying the weight of family dysfunction. After dinner, Ray produces a bottle of root beer from Walter's small refrigerator, and we sit on the cottage's tiny porch under a canopy of stars that seem brighter away from the main house's floodlights. The November air is crisp, but not bitter, and I pull my jacket closer as Walter settles into his old rocking chair. "I've been thinking about what you told me," Ray says to Walter, "about letting people make their own mistakes, but some mistakes hurt innocent people." Walter nods slowly. "Sometimes they do. But forcing someone to change rarely works either. They have to want it for themselves." I reach into my jacket pocket and pull out the deed we found in the attic, along with Grandma Evelyn's letter. "Grandpa, we need to talk about this." His eyes move to the documents in my hands, and something shifts in his expression. Not surprise, but maybe relief. "You found your grandmother's hiding spot," he says quietly. "You knew?" Ray asks. "Evelyn always said the truth has a way of surfacing when it's needed most." Walter takes the deed with hands that shake slightly. Not from age, but from emotion. "I've been waiting for the right moment, the right person to understand what this means. It means you own this house. It means Mom has no right to kick you out of your own home. It means," Walter corrects gently, "that this house belongs to whoever will use it for its intended purpose. Your grandmother made me promise not to let it become a monument to ego or greed." The three of us sit in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead. Tomorrow, I know, everything will change. But tonight, in this small circle of trust and love, I feel the weight of 4 generations of Emersons settling on my shoulders. Not as a burden, but as a foundation. "Grandpa, I'm going to make this right." He reaches over and squeezes my hand with fingers that are still strong despite their age. "I know you will, Ben. I've been waiting for you to be ready." "What if I'm not?" "Then you'll figure it out as you go. That's what we Emersons do."
Thanksgiving Day arrives with the kind of crisp, golden Pennsylvania morning that belongs on greeting cards. From my bedroom window, I can see Mom directing an army of caterers and florists as they transform our dining room into something that looks more like a magazine spread than a place where families gather to share gratitude. By 2 o'clock, the house fills with guests who speak in the kind of hushed, reverent tones usually reserved for museums. Gregory's business associates arrive in luxury cars, their wives draped in jewelry that catches the afternoon light streaming through windows Walter installed with his own hands 40 years ago. I watch from the kitchen as Mom glides between them, playing the perfect hostess in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Grandpa's monthly pension.
"Ladies and gentlemen," she announces as everyone takes their seats at the extended dining table, "welcome to our family's Thanksgiving celebration. This house has been in the Emerson family for generations, and Gregory and I are so honored to share its heritage with all of you." I'm seated between Uncle Ray and one of Gregory's golf partners, holding copies of the deed and Evelyn's letter in my jacket pocket like talismans. My heart pounds as I watch Mom launch into a speech about tradition and legacy that would make Grandma Evelyn roll over in her grave. "The Emerson family has always believed in building something lasting," she continues, her voice carrying that practiced warmth. "This house represents the American dream, the idea that through hard work and determination, we can create something beautiful for future generations." Gregory raises his wine glass. "To heritage," he says, his smile sharp as broken glass. and to new beginnings. The irony is suffocating. Here she is, speaking about Walter's legacy to a room full of strangers, while the man who actually built this legacy sits alone in the cottage 50 yards away, probably eating a turkey sandwich while his own daughter denies his existence. As the first course is served, I notice several guests glancing toward the empty chair at the head of the table, Walter's traditional seat during every family gathering since before I was born. One of Gregory's associates, a silver-haired woman in pearls, leans toward Mom. "Isn't your father joining us? I was looking forward to meeting the man who built this beautiful home." Mom's fork pauses halfway to her mouth, and I see something flicker across her face. Panic, maybe, or shame. "My father is, resting today. He's not feeling quite himself." "Oh, that's too bad," the woman continues. "Gregory mentioned he was quite the entrepreneur back in his day. Auto repair, wasn't it?" The temperature at the table seems to drop. I can feel Uncle Ray's tension beside me as Gregory smoothly changes the subject to market trends and property values, but I've heard enough. I stand up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor Walter refinished himself in 1987. The conversations around the table slowly die as 30 pairs of eyes turn toward me. "Actually," I say, my voice steadier than I feel, "I think you should all know the truth about the man who built this house." The silence that follows my revelation feels like the moment after lightning strikes when the world holds its breath before the thunder. 30 faces stare at me, at the deed I'm holding, at Mom whose complexion has gone from cream to ash in the span of 10 seconds. "Benjamin," she whispers, her voice barely audible above the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. "What have you done?" Gregory's business associates exchange glances that speak volumes about deal-making and liability. One by one, they begin to excuse themselves: sudden headaches, early flights, family emergencies that didn't exist 5 minutes ago. The woman in pearls who asked about Walter pauses at the door. "Please give my regards to your father," she says to Mom, her tone carefully neutral. "I hope he feels better soon." Within 20 minutes, the dining room that was packed with 30 guests holds only our fractured family. Uncle Ray sits quietly, his hand resting supportively on my shoulder. Gregory paces by the windows, his phone pressed to his ear as he speaks in clipped tones to someone about complications and reassessing the timeline. "You destroyed everything," Mom says finally, her voice rising with each word. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The connections we could have made? The opportunities you've ruined?" "I told the truth," I replied, surprised by how calm I sound. "About the man who built this house with his own hands. About the grandfather you've been hiding away like some dirty secret." "He's embarrassing!" The mask is completely gone now, revealing the raw desperation underneath. "Look at this place, Ben. Look at what we could have. Gregory and I can make something important out of this property. We can build something that matters." "Like what? A golf resort? Luxury condos?" I gesture around the room, at the hand-carved moldings in the fieldstone fireplace Walter laid stone by stone. "You want to tear down 4 generations of family history for what? A few $1,000,000 and the approval of people who won't even remember your name next week?" That's when we hear the front door open. Walter steps into the dining room, still wearing his work clothes and carrying his old felt hat. Mabel trots beside him, her tail wagging despite the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. "Thought I might join the family for dessert," he says quietly, his eyes taking in the scattered napkins, the abandoned wine glasses, the wreckage of Mom's perfect dinner party. "Dad, please," Mom starts, but Walter raises a weathered hand.
"Claire, this house has been open to family for 60 years. I'm not about to stop now." He looks directly at her, and I see something in his face that I've never seen before. Not anger, but profound sadness. Though I suspect after today, it might be a smaller family than it was this morning. Gregory ends his phone call and approaches Walter with his hand extended, as if nothing has changed. "Walter, perhaps we can discuss this like reasonable men. I'm sure we can reach an arrangement that benefits everyone." Walter studies the offered hand for a long moment, then looks Gregory directly in the eyes. "Son, I've been making arrangements my whole life, and I've learned that any deal that requires lying to family isn't worth making. Mom stands abruptly, her chair falling backward. I can't do this anymore. I won't be humiliated in my own home. It's not your home, Walter says gently. It never was, but it could have been. The next morning, I wake to the sound of car doors slamming. From my bedroom window, I watch Mom loading her Louis Vuitton suitcases into Gregory's BMW, their movements sharp with the kind of anger that comes from having your carefully constructed world collapse overnight. Gregory never looks up at the house, not once, as he starts the engine. I find Walter in the kitchen, scrambling eggs at the old cast-iron stove that came with the house when he bought it in 1962. Mabel lies at his feet, finally back in her rightful place. The morning light streaming through Grandma Evelyn's lace curtains makes everything look golden and peaceful, like the house is exhaling after holding its breath for years. She's gone, I say, though it's not really a question. For now, Walter replies, sliding eggs onto 2 plates. Your mother needs time to figure out who she wants to be when nobody's watching. What if she never comes back? Walter sets a plate in front of me and sits down across the scarred wooden table where 3 generations of Emersons have eaten breakfast. Then that'll be her choice. But this house will be here if she changes her mind. Uncle Ray appears in the doorway, his hair still messy from sleep. Did I miss the dramatic exit? Just the tail end. Gregory burned rubber leaving the driveway. Good riddance. Ray pours himself coffee from the pot Walter always keeps brewing. So what happens now? Walter looks around the kitchen, at the worn linoleum and the ancient refrigerator covered in family photos, at the windowsill where Evelyn's herbs still grow wild after all these years. I've been thinking about that. This house was meant to be filled with people, but maybe not just family. Maybe it's time to open it up to folks who need what we have to offer. What do you mean? There's a lot of young people in this county who could use a place to learn practical skills. Woodworking, auto repair, basic home maintenance. Walter's eyes brighten with the same enthusiasm I remember from my childhood when he'd talk about expanding his shop or teaching me how to change oil. Your grandmother always said this house should be a place where people discover what they're capable of. I think about the deed, still sitting upstairs on my dresser. You want to turn it into some kind of trade school? Not exactly. More like a community workshop, a place where teenagers who don't fit the college mold can learn skills that'll serve them their whole lives. He reaches across the table and touches my hand. With the right person running it, of course. Grandpa, I'm only 19. I don't know anything about running a program like that. You know more than you think, Ben. And what you don't know, we can figure out together. He stands up and walks to the kitchen window that overlooks the backyard where he taught me to split firewood and change spark plugs. This house deserves to be filled with the sound of young people learning and growing, just like it was when you were small. Uncle Ray raises his coffee mug. To new foundations. I look around the kitchen, imagining it filled with laughter again, with the kind of purposeful activity that Walter always said made a house feel alive. Outside, the Pennsylvania morning is bright and crisp with possibility. To new foundations. I agree. And for the first time in years, the future feels like something worth building.
Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.